All right, this is SIG scale. It's April 16th, 2026. All right, so we have a few agenda items today. Hold on, I wanted to, before we go to the first one, did we merge the Kubernetes test? I saw this like kept getting taken on and off the agenda, and I don't know. Okay, we did. Was there any other outstanding PRs here for Kubernetes? I can't, I've been losing track of these.
Yes, there is one more. It is in Project Infra. Let me get the link. 4703.
Actually, I'm gonna hold on to your change feed here. We're probably gonna talk about this too. Said 4703. Okay, this one, I don't know what's okay, well, you've been reviewing it. Okay. Is this just unit approval? Is that all that's left here? Looks like
No,
it's
we are running into weird issues here. Um,
okay.
so what I think the current blocker is that Quay access to that job is not working, and you can see in that error is
Hmm.
some unauthorized error that we are seeing with Quay, even though the job has the annotation that one of the other reviewers mentioned for Quay in there. So I am not sure. Yeah, I think I'm just waiting for the other reviewer to add ideas. Um, if Lubo is familiar and knows about getting Quay to work with CI, anything will help here.
I will ask around for somebody to have a look.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Um, okay, let me go to your Shrija. I don't know if did you have anything you wanted to add here? I think there were some comments. Oh, okay, you've already, I think this is approved and everything is done for this, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, maybe we don't need to talk about anything here. All right, let's go to the next topic. Okay, this one is a discussion that we were tagged on for six scale. Um, okay, so like this topic is interesting. There's actually a lot of depth here for this, and um, we can kind of go in a few directions. So, um, kind of the way I summarize this is that there's well, let me go to the issue. Let me go to the issue. I think that'll let me make sure I get this right. So if you if you do a if you're using local storage, so the storage you require is read write once, it's tied to the node, and you do like hot plugging of that storage. And so you'll get your pod, you'll get your what's it called? The hot plug pod. I can't remember the name of it. It's created and then the hot plug occurs on that node. There's a problem when you restart the VM and the VM can go to a different node. And then the attachment pod, that's the new one I was trying to think of. The attachment pod will get recreated again on a different node, but the storage that you hot plugged is no longer on that node. And it's sort of like a split brain scenario where like the scheduler is really not where like there's certain affinities that's on the PVC, and that PVC, those affinities are actually go to the attachment pod, and they don't really make their way to the VM. And so there's The way like that's being proposed to fix this is to basically take the um, a lot of the policies, the affinity policies from the PVC and the attachment pod, and bring them and sync them to the VMI. And this has implications because, well, it's essentially doing scheduling because there's actually in here. If I go into the code, there's a every time we do a, let's see if I can find what I'm about to talk about. Every time we do a VM restart, so we're gonna add in this change is gonna add a node informer, and every time we do a VM restart that involves a hot plug, we have to do a list of nodes, and then we basically have to build an affinity. This isn't what I'm looking for in my search, but okay, there you have to build a, oh, here it is. Okay. Get all nodes. So we have to build an affinity. We have to look at all the nodes, and then we have to build an affinity uh and then attach it to the VMI. Essentially, like some would argue that this is not scheduling. I would argue it is. And then now what ends up happening is you will get a VMI that is correctly scheduled on the node that has the local the local storage. Um, All right, are there any questions about that? I don't know if I explained that really well, but that's the context for this. And then we can go into this has scale implications, obviously, but I just wanted to make sure there were any questions about the context.
I have a question. Um, so this is an interesting edge case because we hot plug the volume. In a classic case where the volume exists before, well, the PVC is attached to the VMI during the bring up, this situation gets solved by the cube scheduler, right? Where it sees that the volume is bound, the PVC is bound to the same node as the pod or as where the VM is going to. But
Yeah,
is
yeah,
my understanding correct that because when the VM gets recreated after the hot plug, the PVC is not attached to to that pod, and because it is not attached to that pod, that's why it's going to a different node.
correct. Yes.
So in that case, if a hot plug happens, can we not just upon restart uh, treat the hot plug as a normal volume?
Treat the hot plug as so in other words, like put attach the volume directly onto the VMI.
Yes.
So I asked this question. Um, my understanding is that would happen anyway, but that it wouldn't work. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Um, this is not clear to me, so I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Theoretically, what I'm thinking is that the PV for the hot plug volume will have a node name associated with it, right? And if we, upon restart, if we attach that PV as a normal volume, not a hot plug volume, but a normal volume on the VM, then it should be scheduled on the same node. And logically, that makes sense, right? You hot plug something that VM restarted. Now you should not be hot plugging that thing again. It should be pre-created as a normal volume.
Yeah, I'm trying to because I asked the same question to Alexander, and I'm just trying to figure out. Um, I'm trying to, so I just need to remember what the answer was here. Um, because yes, conceptually I agree. Like, but but he didn't agree that this would happen. So I just need to read this again. Schedules to okay. Okay, I'm trying to read this. I'm forgetting where this is. Okay, so I just think we can pursue that on the PR, but for some reason that's my understanding is that it's not possible. Like that we won't be able to get the volume or the PVC um to the VMI or to the VM. Yeah, I don't know why. So but that's so let's just for the sake of discussion, we'll just assume that this is a problem. We can't do that. So the solution here for this is that uh, is that essentially we have to get all nodes and basically have to do a list of nodes. And if I remember correctly, it's every restart that this hot plug every time a VM restarts that has a hot plug, you would do this and you'd have to check this. So it's not good. Like it's not good for scaling. And so this was the question that was proposed to us. And I think like only part of it is being evaluated here in terms of like what the benchmarking is. So I mean, I think we need to do like a much more deep dive into this issue. So mainly for discussion points, I just want to make everyone aware of this. And then I think we will need to do a deep dive on this PR. Like these are only two paths that are outlined here, but this doesn't take into account like the fact that we're listing nodes, which is not being tested here. So this is sort of like another aspect of this. And just to be clear, like what this is that I'm highlighting here, it's building the affinity. It's like how the affinity is built, which is like how do you isolate the affinity so it's clear like which node, and it can be it can be multiple, I guess. Like you can build a policy that can select several candidates, and that's what he's doing. So he's just building it, and that's what their comment was about. So one other thing, the other discussion point I wanted to have, just besides just raising this context, was should this be um, should this be a solution at all? Um, should we be doing scheduling in essentially in KubeVirt for hot plugging? That was the question that I raised because like Alay, you had, or I think it was you, Alay, who had created this issue previously. Where is it? Down here, where essentially I mean, we can evaluate like using node local hot plug. And this would be interesting because we wouldn't need we would need the pod. We wouldn't need the provisioning pod, the attachment pod, and we wouldn't need it and this problem would go away. But this has other implications, obviously. But there's other requirements here that have to make this successful. But there's sort of the larger meta question, which is like, should KubeVirt be doing a scheduling? Um, and I don't know. In my opinion, that's not a good idea. So that's sort of like a question for this group, which is like, if KubeVirt does take this on, there's going to be scaling implications, and we're going to have to measure them, and we'll need to do like an in-depth discussion on this PR to measure like exactly what that is and mitigate and make sure that it's successful. And then obviously the other question is whether it should we do this or not. So how about for me, like when we have an AI, because I've only dug into parts of this PR. Like let me go through and build the discussion that we can have. I think the open questions as to like um how exactly, like why can't we use a VM? Um that and post the PVC there. I think I need to explore that some more and get to the bottom of it. Um, and then we'll need to dig into this PR. We'll need like specific points that we want to talk about.
Yeah, and mm, I have like assuming that path doesn't work out. I have some more questions on this implementation. Why do we require to set affinity here, and why can we simply not set podspec.node name upon restart?
So like that would be like Q like the control plane, I'll say the control plane for qvert knows that this PVC is tied to the node. And so it just automatically so instead of so basically caches the node name is what you're saying.
Yes.
We just and then we just
Yeah.
reattach it. Yeah. So we just
For
bypass the
hot plug
scheduler
volumes.
entirely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also I feel would be reasonable. Um yeah. I mean I think it sounds reasonable to me. I think it's an avenue we can explore.
Yeah, because effectively with the required node affinity, you are you are putting on more work on the scheduler to guide your pod there, which you can just do it by spec.node name directly and save a lot of performance issues in the system.
Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, like my feeling on this, this to me is not appropriate. Like this is like full blown scheduling and like discovering. We're basically discovering the ideal node when we should be able to know what it is, or we should be able to scope it. So, like you're saying, like, is that scope it such that we don't ever have to do this. That we just gonna say like make an assumption, make it. Maybe it's hacky, but it's much better than doing this. Which is this is just a little bit too heavy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
one thing to note is that I just see that this year is introducing an informer. So the, at least that list call will be cached. We will not be seeing that list call come to API server every restart. But instead, what we will be seeing is that depending on how huge that list is, there will be memory and time spent in executing through this loop, right? So
yeah,
it will all be constrained to word controller, but it's still not a so that restricts the impact to word controller and not takes it does not take it past to the Kubernetes control plane. But still, this is not ideal. I agree with that sentiment.
yeah. Okay. So there'll be some follow up here. We'll just carry this forward. We can have this discussion. We'll bring in like a point or two and we can discuss it in follow up meetings and then um, comment on this out of band. I do think though, while we are doing this, I think it's worth in parallel having the discussion about the attachment pod, or at least just an alternative to it. I think that's worth having the discussion. Just this is a great example of like additional corner cases that having the attachment pod brings in.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should go to SIG storage with this discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it is. I'll have to look for it, but yeah, getting in there will help fast track this, I think. Or maybe if it is scale focused, uh, ask uh, ask them to join the next call here. Either way.
Yeah, I think we'll probably go to SIG storage for this because I think we want to Like talk about the issue you created, LA, for um, which would be an alternative to having the attachment pod. Because if you ask me, like, if the attachment pod is not going to solve this, if there's another way, like a node, this just seems like a great example of why a node local um, hot plug API would make sense because you have devices that are tied directly to the node. Like we should just be using another mechanism that is also tied to the node. It just seems to fit much better than having to build this bunch of scheduler logic into KubeVirt.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, then I set it the context. All right. There's a question in the chat. Okay, we're gonna drop. See you later, Lubo. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is um, this one is okay. So I don't know a whole lot about this. I don't know what the quarantine. So I guess we have a flaky test and then quarantining. I don't know what quarantining means here. Like I don't know what happens when you quarantine something. Lubo, I need you to drop. I don't know if you're still there, but if you got a second, do you know what this is? No, I think we lost Lubo. Okay. I think it's just something we're gonna have to look at. It seems like I guess the test is flaky and we need. I think that's just. I think maybe we're turning it off. That's what it is. So we just need to fix it.
If you scroll down, I saw another PR referencing it.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
maybe.
So Lee's already on top of this. Okay, perfect. Okay, I didn't see this. Okay, so we probably just need to merge this and then.
Yeah.
Okay, we were okay. So it was never finishing because it looks like we were expecting a certain amount of VMs. Okay. Oh, the primer VM. Okay. Oh no, the primer VM is too tight for the CI environment. But how is that? Oh, so we need to remove it? Is that, I guess that's what's happening. We need the primer VM. That's interesting. Okay. All right, I guess we can review this offline and then this should fix the test.
Yeah. These tests are not useful. Eh, Nowadays, we have stopped tracking them. So I don't know. And maybe outside the scope of this PR, maybe you should think about removing them.
Yeah, well, for the instance type one, yeah, like we don't use it that much. We just use our other
No,
densities.
sorry, I mean that the density test, right? Uh, we we have
Do we
stopped
pull them for
maintaining.
oh, we don't, which one do we pull the metrics from? It's not the density one?
Yes, it's the periodic performance ones. Yeah. So the first three, yeah, that link.
This one. Yeah. Yeah, we pull from periodic 134 SIG performance, and he's working on yeah, I see. So okay, which is a different test.
Yeah, so this one is on that
Yeah.
dedicated performance cluster.
Yeah. Okay. That's That's right. Okay. Yeah, we've not been looking at the dedicated performance cluster. We've been, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'll be something I have to think about. All right. It looks like he's gonna already fix it, so that's good. And then um yeah, we'll have to think about what we want to do with that cluster. Oh, the dashboard's not even working anymore. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably served its purpose at this point. Okay. I don't know. I don't know who to ask about that. Maybe I don't know, maybe Daniel knows. All right. I guess then we'll just go with this. We'll see if we can get this merged and then hopefully this goes away and then we'll have to pursue that effort differently, separately.
Yep.
Okay. Unfortunately, we didn't get to this and we lost Lubo. Do you guys, why don't we speed off with this next time so that we make sure we get enough time for it?
Yeah, let's do that.
So for 423 or the next time we meet. Okay. Okay, sounds good. I think we'll end early then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Red.
Bye bye.